What I'm going to do is to discuss what is happening at high level with technology today. And I'm going to try to do it in a way that gets across some really key messages for you. And then the rest of the day will be spent drilling down in specific areas. So what we're going to be presenting today in terms of startups and new technology are what we call transformative. So Stanford and Silicon Valley have a huge number of startups, and we have qualified in our program to present only those that we think represent a complete transformation of either a business model or an industry. So we're trying to keep this to be a very unique set of content today. And I'm going to do my best to moderate. I got to tell you that I'm not that good at keeping things on schedule, but I'll do my best today, okay, as we go through this. So let me get started by introducing myself. I'm Michael Steep. I am the executive director for the Stanford program on something called Disruptive Technology and Digital Cities. And it's part of the School of Engineering, but what we do crosses 6 different schools, and we kind of act like a clearinghouse for technology. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the program and why we created the program, since I'm the founder of it. We created the program primarily to create a bridge between our members, which are generally corporations and now family offices, and early stage technology that is crossing every major domain, from sensors to consumer behavior to predictive analytics and so forth. And the way we do that is by tapping into what I call the giant candy store. So Stanford has a large number of labs and projects across all these different domains. And if you think about it, it's sort of like a candy store. And just like a candy store, if you don't qualify what you're looking at, you can get sick from eating all the good candy. So what we do for our members is we talk to them specifically about what their problems are, and then we hunt down, we issue a hunting license to find what we think are technologies that will help them, and then we guide them through the process. So if you will, it's a bridge. So this fancy looking image shows you kind of the asset on the left. I call it an asset, or the candy store, that has all these different labs. So these are the schools. And on the right are our memberships. So we've got companies like 3M, Daikin, Visa, Microsoft, and so forth. And yes, they're looking for early stage innovation, so they understand that even if you're a Microsoft or a Google, you may actually not have the technology that you need to sustain the company for the long term. So the program offers an opportunity to create awareness. So why is this happening? Well, primarily because there's been a huge shift. First of all, technology itself is no longer about one thing. So I've been in the computer business for nearly 40 years. I was the person who launched the first software for the IBM PC from Software Publishing Corporation. And I've gone through every major transition point, and I'm still standing, including cloud at Microsoft, among other things. And now, early stage technology at PARC, and now Stanford. So I've seen all these different transitions occur and experienced it directly. We launched the first digital camera in the 1990s at Apple. It was a complete and utter failure. And primarily because it was priced wrong. It was over $1,000, took 16 photos, it had massive 64K of memory, and you had to hook it up to a TV to be able to view the photos. You couldn't do anything else. $1,000 at that time, right? So transitions in technology are always about change. And the thing about technology that's different about it versus any other kind of endeavor, well, you've heard about Moore's Law, but what you haven't heard about is that you have exponential growth that's occurring that you just don't experience with anything else. And so when we start looking at this as a program, we are very concerned about where that is headed and what the consequences are going to do. To give you a few examples of what the program's contributed, what do? We not only help our members look at new technology development, but we also finance the education of PhDs and also principal researchers at Stanford and faculty, and we do faculty projects. So over the course of a couple years, we have done this, including creating new course material, but we've also had a whole series of projects that we've undertaken with our members to drive new technology development, including business model development. So the program has two purposes. One is to focus on the member and what they need, which is unusual for a university program. It's not just a gift or you write a check for a gift. It's about reciprocal problem solving. And then the other part of the program is designed to take some of our PhDs and put them into situations where they get market experience. Believe it or not, that's a rare thing. And PhDs do not necessarily understand business models. And so year to date, we've spent over $2 million of program dollars that have come in primarily to fund a lot of these education projects and have published a rather large number of programs. So the program itself is defined around this notion of disruptive technology. So people ask me, what is disruptive technology? And really what it is what I would call transformational technology. It's technology like the iPhone when it was first introduced that completely changes the way we think about what used to be called cell phones, where the device itself becomes an end in itself. Entertainment device, a personal device for connection, social media, and so forth. And it's enabled because of the massive exponential growth in all the technologies represented by the iPhone, from semiconductors to software that are converged. So the real difference between today and the past is that technology is converging, where you're combining all these elements together in virtually everything that's being created. So it's not just hardware, but it's the software analysis, it's algorithms to understand trends, and it's also the whole experience, the interface of whatever it is that you're engaging with. So in a disruptive technology, it fundamentally changes a business model in our definition. So of the 500 or so labs at Stanford and the roughly 10,000 projects, only a small percentage are commercially viable. I would say 20%. Meaning that over the course of the next 16 months, as an example, you're going to see a new emerging technology start to commercialize in the form of a startup or a new initiative. And the timeframes are pretty extraordinary in how this stuff develops. The life cycles are literally condensing, which means that we're having this explosion of information. So what is actually happening? Well, it can be represented by this chart. And it's kind of a crazy Stanford chart, if you will. So it's got a lot of information on it. But basically, if you follow the red upward slope, this is the course of innovation and development globally of all the various startups in each of the waves that are occurring. So yeah, companies come and go, but the ultimate endpoint is rising at almost an exponential curve. So if you're wondering why we're all going crazy trying to deal with technology development and its impact, this is one of the reasons. The exponential growth you see is far exceeding our ability to keep up with it. So that dotted line is us. And I could show you another dotted line, which wouldn't actually be on the graph because it's actually negative, and that's the government. And how we're utilizing it at local levels. So the emerging gap is so significant now that to be successful with the technology in any way or capacity, you've got to be creating an organization that's capable of change, and rapid deployment of new recruiting and expertise. So the old notion that we're going to have this long career path of many, many years is slowly dying. And now it's about what expertise do we have at any given point in the life cycle of our company. So this explosion is occurring, but the cool thing about it is that it's all converging technologies. So this is an example of some of the stuff that was developed at my old company at Park, including liquids that contain semiconductors that were sprayed on a material to create a cheap semiconductor, a different type of manufacturing process. You literally spray chips onto a surface and they use a magnet to align them into a circuit and do the connection points, to smart tags and all kinds of new devices that are being deployed. So the convergence is the key word here. So when we think about technology, it's convergence that really is creating both the opportunity, and I hate to say it, also the problem. So if we're creating massive numbers of new devices, we're also creating huge amounts of data at an exponential rate. And our current legacy systems, our software systems to keep up with it, and our ability to do predictive analytics and all of this is way behind the progress that is being made with these technologies. So it creates opportunity. We've got an amazing amount of information at our fingertips. It creates problems like cybersecurity, where even our kids' devices are new platforms that bad actors can use to attack as weapons platforms into everything from Bank of America to corporate systems, and we just can't keep up with it. So the key here is that the human ability to respond to a lot of these situations is rapidly disappearing. Human ability to respond is rapidly disappearing, which means that the only way, or one of the only ways that we can keep up, is by using machine speed capability to intercept bad things that happen. On the good side of it, that machine capability are the algorithms that everybody is experiencing through social media, both good and bad. And one of the reasons we're having so many difficulties as a society is that you can create magical thinking, whole new ideas that don't have any basis in fact, and then deploy them so rapidly that they become pervasive everywhere. So this whole notion of the gap has all of these unintended consequences, but I tell you today that the machine intelligence is what's driving a lot of the solution as well as the problem, okay? Now, why is all this happening? It's happening primarily because there's been a global shift in R&D expenditure. So out of all of the companies in the world, the top companies in the world, last year they spent roughly $2 trillion on R&D, of which 92% or 90% was spent on incremental, I'm being warned about time, was spent on incremental technology development, not new stuff. And as a result of that, $200 billion being spent outside of the corporation, meaning in venture, startup, and in commercial labs, was $300 billion. And that's growing at a double-digit rate. So what are the implications of this? The implications are very clear. CEOs are wondering why they can't keep up. And one of the reasons that they can't keep up is they're flying blind. Their own R&D organizations have very little in the way of any visibility to where the new technology is being developed. There's no bridge. And so there's even no way to even talk to a lot of these new technology developments. And so the central problem that we're dealing with is that technology has moved from inside the corporate R&D organization to outside in a world of 1,000 different choices, where we have commercial labs, government, and venture now spending more money than corporations are spending on R&D in total. And it's all at risk, 100% of it. So that's the reason why we have this explosion that's occurring. And the program in the past has been designed to address that. Okay. So commensurate with the explosion in devices, we have this explosion in data. So this is a huge obstacle. It's like a barrier where we're creating more and more information. And we used to think that data was free, storage was free. And for all intents and purposes, it is free, and that's actually the problem. We're not sorting through the data to determine how much of it is really relevant, and it's a real big issue. So much so that just in the healthcare industry, and you're going to love this, because I just got the new numbers on what percentage of healthcare cost is as part of GDP in the US. It's now 23%. It was 19 just 3 years ago of GDP. It's now 23%, gone up 4 percentage points. 20% of all healthcare expense in the United States is for data management. 20% of all of our healthcare data in the United States is data management. And we're storing information that has a half-life of less than 18 months now. So that is a huge challenge for us. It's also a big problem in the cybersecurity space. So we're going to show some case examples during all of this, but I want to stop the presentation for a moment. And I want to acknowledge some of our team leaders and have them stand up so you can see who they are, and then we'll move on to begin our program. So first, I'd like to acknowledge Ram Rajagopal, who is our academic leader. And Ram is an expert in the energy space, among other things, and a guiding light to help us understand how technology is beginning to evolve at early stage. So thank you, Ram. And then over here we have Joe Bojo, who does strategic relationships for the program, and we also have Karina Alexanian. I call her Dr. K for short. She's a PhD, so I got to call her doctor. What? I have an MBA. Does that count for anything? Oh, never mind. Okay, and then we also have Tiffany. Tiffany, are you in the room? Oh, Tiffany is, I think she's still up. She's at registration, so she's our project leader. And then we have 30 members of our program, corporate members and family office members. There's one member of our program who is not with us today, and I'd like to take the time to acknowledge him. Todd Peterson, who I've known for nearly 25 years. He worked with me at Microsoft and unfortunately passed from this world of cancer several months ago. And Todd was a founding member of our program who helped us build those relationships, but also was instrumental in getting a new initiative underway called the Family Office. And so we wanted to say farewell and acknowledge what he's done. And also, Todd is one of the few people that I have ever met in my life who had all of the integrity, expertise, people, passion about life to the extreme. And so he was sort of the way you think about how you should live your life. And so he is dearly missed by all of us, and his family is here today as part of this dedication, but this conference day is dedicated to Todd. So Cindy, where are you? So Cindy Green, and we also have Todd's brother here as well. And this video will be recorded and so that they can share it with other family members, Todd's son and daughter, and we wish them very well. So with that, we are now moving into our program, and our first session, let me introduce our speakers. Richard. I'm going to be moderating the panels today, so Richard is with our partner, McMaster University. And McMaster University is in Canada. It's also one of the top universities, certainly in the medical field in the world. And they have been very helpful in working with Stanford on a number of different conferences and programs. So with that, let me ask Richard to come up. Thank you.